All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, as of right now, Tennessee has to figure out who's going to be their starting quarterback for the upcoming college football season, while Nico Iamaleva, who was once entrenched as a starting quarterback, is now searching for a new football home. Things finally came to a head over the last 2 days after Iamaleva decided not to attend practice yesterday. And then, of course, there was a dispute between the quarterback and the school and his camp over the NIL deal, as his camp reportedly was seeking more from the school in regards to NILs. And at the end of the day, it's a sad situation because I've said this before and I will continue to say it. This is once again screaming of more regulations and a semblance of order that is needed when it comes to the NILs. Iamaleva and his camp felt that they had leverage at the time of this over the school due to the fact that the spring portal is set to open in a couple of days. But Tennessee put their foot down with Iamaleva, and if they hadn't, then Pandora's box really would have opened it up. Not just for Tennessee, but for schools all around the country, and not just for football. Okay. I know that there are plenty of people right now who want to get on the case of Nico Iamaleva in regards to this situation. Some of it does fall into his lap, but the bulk of this falls into the lap of the adults in the room. All right, because you look at the NCAA, they introduced the transfer portal, they introduced the NILs without any oversight. And don't get me wrong, I am all for these kids having the opportunity to get some money. Why? Because these schools are making money hand over fist off of them. All right. But in some cases, you look at the agents, okay, and then in some cases, the family members as well. They don't have the best interest of these kids in mind. And at the end of the day, some of them are simply looking out for themselves. And right here, right now, here we are. But the Iamaleva camp truly did overplay their hand. As yes, he was a starting quarterback for Tennessee last season. And yes, he did help the Volunteers get to the college football playoff for the first time in school history. But you have to look inside of the numbers. Nico Iamaleva last season threw 19 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions for Tennessee. 11 of those touchdown passes came against teams that either finished with a losing record or were FBS schools. In the playoff loss to Ohio State in round number one, Tennessee lost that game 42-17. Nico Iamaleva was a non-factor, 14 of 31 for a buck 04, no touchdowns and no interceptions. You go back to last November in a game that could have given Tennessee the opportunity to get to Atlanta for the SEC championship game and possibly get a first round bye for the college football playoff. Tennessee lost that game 31-17. Iamaleva was 20 of 30, 20 of 33 rather, for a buck 67, no touchdowns and no interceptions. So at the end of the day, it's one of those where I understand he's trying to go out there and get more bread, but I'll tell you like this, because there were reports that his people were looking at getting 4 million a year from Tennessee. I think he's getting someplace between 2 to 2.5 million as of right now in regards to NIL money. I'll tell you like this: can you imagine if Tennessee had given Nico Iamaleva more money, and then he didn't play well against Georgia this year, and they lost. He didn't play well against Alabama, and they lost that game. He didn't play well against Florida this season, and they lost that game. Things would have been different. Why? Because we already have a scenario, okay, especially in the SEC, especially in the Big Ten, where if the quarterback doesn't play well, he hears it from the fan base. And that was pre NIL. So, what do you think is going to happen now? I mean, you look at the coaches, okay, and the coaches at these big time programs, they're expected to deliver because some of them are getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $10 million or more per year. So now, if these schools are going to turn around or the NIL collective is going to turn around and give these kids big paper, guess what? They want to see the results. But nonetheless, this I think is going to expedite things to have more regulations in regards to the NILs. As recently we saw the commissioners of the Power Four leagues all meet in Washington, D.C. with politicians. And it's not a matter of if, but it's more like a matter of when. We're going to see more regulations and more parameters in place for the NILs. So you look at Nico Iamaleva, and okay, and I know that it's easy to take some of the letters out of his last name and say, call him Nico, I am leaving, whatever you want to say. But nonetheless, you have to wonder what's next for this young man. Okay, he's going to the transfer portal, and you have to wonder if everything that's gone down for him at Tennessee will affect him. Yes and no, because I think that there's still going to be some teams out there, some schools out there that are going to look at him and say, hey, you know what? We want this kid to play quarterback. Because again, we're starting to see some schools go away from the spring games. Why? Because kids go out there and ball out, and then the next thing you know, they're jumping in the spring portal. Okay, and and schools are losing kids. So that's why we're starting to see teams get away from that. Nonetheless, there's still going to be a market for him because there are some schools out there that still have questions about their quarterback situation going into the spring season right now. So he's going to have some opportunities there, but I still think he's going to have to go out there and prove himself at the same time. Why? Because you've got to go out there and you've got to win over a new locker room. You've got to win over a new fan base. And now, regardless, this is going to hang over your head if you're Nico Iamaleva for the rest of your career, not just as a collegiate, but also as a pro. Should you be able to get that far? And like I said before, there needs to be more regulations, more parameters in place for the NILs. Just go back to this past season with the whole Matthew Sluka situation with UNLV and how that turned out. And of course, Sluka said he was promised more money, left the program. UNLV was undefeated. They didn't skip a beat without Matthew Sluka at quarterback. They still got to the Mountain West Conference Championship game. So you have to wonder what's going to happen with Nico Iamaleva in that scenario. On the flip side, for Tennessee, yes, you lose who was projected to be your starting quarterback. I had in the early stages of working on a top 25 for the fall. I had Tennessee and probably around that 10 to 15 range as far as rankings for teams heading into next season. I truly did believe that they were going to be an upper echelon team in the Southeastern Conference and be in the hunt to get back to the playoff for a second consecutive year. Uh, but with that said, if you're Tennessee, and I know the words have come out today and they're very true, there's nobody that's bigger than your program. And I think if you're Tennessee and if you had given in to Nico Iamaleva, then you know what? The rails really could have fallen off of your program. I think from an outsider's perspective, just guessing, I could be wrong here. I think this was not as much about the coaches for Tennessee as it was the boosters and the people who run the NIL. Because the thing is like, yeah, they're all for giving these kids some coin, but they're not going to be dictated to at least to that point. And the thing is like it's not like Iamaleva tore it up last year. It's not like people are talking about this kid being a first round pick in 2 years, kind of like the way that people are talking about Arch Manning in Texas. So when it's all said and done, it's one of those to ask for it, yes, but it's one of those to simply overplay your hand, and that's exactly what happened here. And I think at the end of the day, Tennessee has to do what's best for their program, and I think they're gonna try to make sure that everybody else, if you will, falls in line the way that they want them to fall in line in Knoxville around this. So it's one of those, the kid simply overplayed his hand. And I think we're going to be talking about this for a long time. And I think this is something that is going to kickstart things in regards to talking about more regulations and more parameters around the NIL. CJ, what's going on, my man? Happy Saturday to you. I hope all is well. Not a good start for your Braves in Major League Baseball this season, but you know what? Still early on in April. Hope springs eternal, and there is plenty of time for them to get it turned around. But sticking in the Southeast region, it's going to be very interesting to see right now what happens with Tennessee. Nonetheless, I think maybe a couple of weeks ago, most people just figured, okay, Tennessee has their spring game coming up. No big thing. Let's see how they look, and let's get ready for fall camp and take it from there. But now, so many questions around the Volunteers program. I guarantee you, head coach Josh Heupel didn't expect to be answering these questions a couple of weeks ago. But at the end of the day, this is the name of the game. But I think there's going to be some changes to the NILs. I think there's going to be contracts, ironclad, like 4-year contracts or maybe 5-year contracts for these kids. It's one of those where I think they're gonna like slow down as far as allowing them to jump around from school to school. If I was a guessing man at this point, but nonetheless, this could be a game-changing day for the NIL landscape with what happened with Nico Iamaleva and Tennessee. I do think there's going to be a school out there that's going to bring them in because there's more schools that need quarterbacks than there are quarterbacks that are available. And at the end of the day, coaches want to win. Coaches need to win. Boosters want to see people win or see their teams win. It's one of those where let's see what happens. But again, like I said, he and his camp overplayed their hand in Knoxville, and Tennessee flat out said it ain't going down like that. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to like this page and subscribe to this channel. It's greatly appreciated, guarantee you. Also, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. You can also check me out on the IG, Instagram at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge, as well as on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365, where I feel it is one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off. And I'm saying thanks once again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.